Janet Yellen's barber. She doesn't care, because she doesn't have to. It's a
The clash between Sunny Hostin and Greg Gutfeld on The View wasn't just another heated talk show segment. It was a cultural moment that exposed raw tensions, contradictions, and the fragile veneer of public personas. What started as a routine episode spiraled into a masterclass in confrontation, with Gutfeld wielding a metaphorical bucket of receipts that cut through Hostin's carefully curated image. This wasn't just about a single exchange. It was a collision of worldviews, class dynamics, and the ever-present specter of hypocrisy in public discourse. The fallout, fueled by social media and relentless online chatter, turned the episode into a lightning rod for debates about authenticity, privilege, and the performative nature of daytime television. Let's unpack how it all went down, from the first spark to the lingering aftershocks, and why this moment resonated so deeply with audiences. The stage was set on a typical episode of The View, where the co-hosts dive into hot-button issues with a mix of passion, opinion, and occasional crosstalk. Sunny Hostin, known for her legal expertise and outspoken advocacy on issues like racial justice and systemic inequality, was holding court as usual. Her polished delivery and confident demeanor have long made her a standout on the show, but they've also drawn criticism for what some see as selective outrage. Enter Greg Gutfeld, the Fox News host known for his sharp wit and no-holds-barred style. Gutfeld wasn't there to play nice. He came armed with specific examples, ready to challenge Hostin's rhetoric in a way that daytime TV rarely sees. From the outset, Gutfeld zeroed in on what he called Hostin's pattern of one-sided outrage. He pointed to moments where she'd passionately condemned certain groups or individuals, particularly on issues of race and privilege, while seemingly ignoring or dismissing inconvenient facts that didn't align with her narrative. This wasn't a vague accusation. Gutfeld brought up specific instances, like Hostin's vocal criticism of systemic racism contrasted with her silence on certain high-profile cases that complicated her stance. He didn't stop there. In a biting quip, he jabbed at her lifestyle, saying, "Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID." The line was a direct hit at her perceived disconnect from everyday struggles, painting her as an elite out of touch with the realities of ordinary Americans. The supermarket comment wasn't just a throwaway line, it was a pointed critique of class privilege, a theme that would echo throughout the exchange. Hostin, visibly rattled, struggled to maintain her usual composure. For a moment, the confident lawyer persona slipped, and she admitted, "I know I sound insufferable." It was a rare moment of vulnerability on national television, where polished images are carefully guarded. That single admission sent shockwaves online, with viewers and commentators dissecting it as evidence of Hostin's awareness of her own contradictions. Social media platforms like Twitter and TikTok lit up with reactions, some praising Gutfeld for exposing her, others accusing him of bullying. Memes proliferated, with captions like "Sunny's receipts just bounced," capturing the internet's gleeful schadenfreude. But the real turning point came when the conversation shifted to Hostin's appearance on Finding Your Roots, the PBS series that traces celebrities' ancestries. Hostin had long positioned herself as a fierce advocate for reparations and a critic of white privilege, often speaking about the historical injustices faced by marginalized groups. Her identity as a Puerto Rican woman was a cornerstone of her public persona, frequently referenced in her commentary. So when the show revealed that her ancestors were not only European but also slaveholders, the revelation landed like a bombshell. On camera, Hostin's reaction was a mix of shock and awkwardness. "I always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I didn't think my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders." The discovery was jarring, not just for Hostin but for viewers who'd followed her advocacy. Here was someone who'd built a platform on calling out historical injustices, now confronted with a family history that tied her directly to the very systems she criticized. Her response was telling. Instead of grappling with the complexity of the revelation, she seemed to waver between confusion and a strange, almost performative acceptance. There was no anger or denial, just an uncomfortable attempt to reconcile the contradiction. Gutfeld seized on this, wielding the ancestry revelation like a rhetorical sledgehammer. "I'm going to milk this till the end of time," he said, pausing for effect before adding, "slave owner." The line was brutal, cutting through the studio's tension like a knife. The audience's reaction was immediate, gasps, murmurs, and a palpable shift in the room's energy. Hostin's discomfort was unmistakable. The confident legal analyst, usually quick with a rebuttal, seemed to fold under the weight of Gutfeld's jab. Her response was halting, lacking the sharp clarity she typically brought to debates. For viewers, this wasn't just a personal moment, it was a public unraveling. The internet exploded with clips of the exchange, shared and reshared across platforms. Commenters pounced, with one writing, "Sunny's out here preaching about privilege while her ancestors were cashing checks from it." Another quipped, "She's got more in common with the plantation than the people she claims to speak for." The memes were relentless, blending humor with biting critique, like one showing Hostin's face photoshopped onto a colonial-era portrait with the caption, "When your roots betray your brand." Gutfeld wasn't done. He pivoted to another angle, calling out what he saw as Hostin's selective outrage on issues like immigration and social policy. He contrasted her fiery rhetoric against certain policies with her softer stance on others, suggesting she cherry-picked causes to fit a narrative rather than engaging with the full complexity of issues. This critique resonated with viewers who'd long felt that the view's hosts, Hostin included, leaned on emotional appeals over substantive analysis. Gutfeld's delivery, equal parts sarcasm and precision, made the accusation stick. He framed Hostin's approach as a performance, one designed to maintain her image rather than grapple with uncomfortable truths. The ancestry revelation and Gutfeld's relentless jabs pushed Hostin into a corner. Instead of countering with evidence or a reasoned defense, she shifted tactics, leaning into a narrative of victimhood. She spoke about the challenges of being a woman of color in a patriarchal system, framing the criticism against her as an attack on her identity rather than her arguments. It was a classic deflection, one that didn't fully address Gutfeld's points, but aimed to redirect the conversation. She even brought up the broader struggles of women, particularly women of color, in navigating power structures, a move that felt rehearsed to some viewers. Online, the reaction was swift and divided. Some saw it as a genuine moment of vulnerability. Others called it a calculated attempt to dodge accountability. Then came the emotional climax. Hostin broke down in tears on air, a moment that could have been a turning point but instead deepened the skepticism. Her tears were accompanied by a passionate defense of her values, but the delivery felt uneven, oscillating between self-righteousness and fragility. Gutfeld didn't let up, mocking the display with a quip, "Strong opinions, weak spine." The line captured what many viewers were thinking, that Hostin's outspokenness crumbled when directly challenged. Social media lit up again, with one user commenting, "Watching Sunny cry feels like watching a scripted soap opera. Where's the accountability?" Another added, "She's playing the victim card harder than she plays the race card." The speculation didn't stop there. Fans and critics alike began to question whether Hostin's meltdown was genuine or staged. Some wondered if she'd been warned about Gutfeld's segment in advance, pointing to her rapid mood swings as evidence of a rehearsed act. Others speculated about external influences, particularly her husband, with some suggesting he might be shaping her opinions behind the scenes. These theories, while unproven, gained traction online, fueled by the public's fascination with the drama. A tweet summed it up. Is Sunny crying because she's hurt or because the script says so? Either way, it's a mess. The segment's impact extended beyond the studio. Clips spread like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, each one spawning new threads of commentary. Gutfeld himself leaned into the moment, comparing the view to a live-action Tumblr thread full of snark and drama. His ability to distill the exchange into shareable soundbites amplified its reach, turning it into a cultural touchstone. Even those who didn't typically watch daytime TV found themselves drawn in, with the clips racking up millions of views. The memes kept coming, from gifs of Hostin's uncomfortable smile to mock-ups of Gutfeld as a detective presenting evidence. For Hostin, the aftermath was a delicate balancing act. In a later segment, she delivered an emotional speech, framing the confrontation as a moment of growth. Tearful and reflective, she spoke about learning from her mistakes and evolving as a person. It was a classic move to reclaim the narrative, but it didn't land with everyone. Many viewers saw it as emotional manipulation, a way to sidestep accountability while appearing vulnerable. One commenter wrote, "Sunny's growth speech feels like damage control, not sincerity." Another added, "She's trying to spin this into a redemption arc, but the receipts are still out there."